Yeah, buddy. Happy Treason Day.
And the stupid hand fetish content making garbage food.
Tastes so much better when you're right. Welcome. Now you say two. Show.
That was well coordinated. I like that.
Glad we planned that one out.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm an agent of chaos. That's my main purpose here.
It's fair.
I fulfill it well, I think.
It's fair. Okay, wait. So speaking of chaos, I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
Now, if you've known Tanner or I for very long, and you know Tanner for a while, we're kind of shenaniganizers, and we kind of get into some shenanigans, and then we shenan again. Anyway, so my confession is, Phil, I don't know if you've picked up on it, but I've called you by a different name in every episode that I've been on.
I have not.
I've called you Bill. I've called you Philum. I've called you Phyllis. And so my confession is that I got to come clean because nobody has picked up on it, and it's just part of my shenaniganizing when I like somebody. So, actually, Courtney picked up on the Bill one. She's the only one that's.
I did hear that. I don't notice because I have been. Do you know how many nickname iterations there are from Phil?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I don't because there's too many to count.
Right.
I probably had 30 different nicknames just in high school, based off of Phil.
You have a handful of nicknames on my U-disc.
It's a lot, yeah. Those ones are a little bit more chaotic.
And I have a flow to my conversation where I can just sneak stuff in, and you don't know this, and I just keep talking.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and your voice is, Phil and I's voice is very penetrating and loud.
Yeah.
Your voice is very soft and soothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good balance. It's a good balance.
And so between that and my general lack of noticing, because Tanner, you've called me 80 different names over the course of our friendship.
Some appropriate, some not.
Some appropriate, some not. I'm not kidding. You call me a different name probably every other week, so I don't notice.
I have a strategy for nicknames. If you've ever when an event happens and you're like, that's the perfect nickname, but then a week later you forget about it. You're like, I'm trying to remember what I called you last week. So what I do is, as soon as one of those events happen, I find their name in my phone book and I change their name, their middle, I add a middle name as the nickname. So every time that they text me or I text them, the nickname pops up. So I'm more likely to continue it.
AKA kind of thing.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. We actually shout out to Kobe Brick and Bronson. He actually just texted me. He listened to episode 36 and he was like, "Oh my gosh," because he knew we were talking about him. But yeah, Phil's name in U-disc, and then the other one is if they play disc golf with me, I make their name in U-disc, which now it doesn't announce in between sets. It used to when you would scroll, it would announce the order out loud. Yeah. And I don't know if it's a feature I have to re-enable or what. But so Phil's name I think currently is Philly Baby Spice. So we'd be in the middle of a round. He'd just take a 6, and we'd be going and be and it would pronounce names weird. It'd be like Tanner, Cody, Philly Baby Spice. Perfectly every time.
Dang it! I just realized, Mike, I forgot to bring. I got my hot sauce.
Oh man!
You should bring it.
I forgot to. Yeah, remind me.
I don't know. Maybe next week we all bring a random hot sauce to.
Gladly.
To try.
Have you tried my? I think I've made you try my hot sauce.
I got
we'll get a try. I don't know. We'll find out.
I can bring some tortilla chips. I got a case left over from graduation party.
Nice.
That we don't know what to do with. So
heck yeah, bring them.
There we go.
All right,
my son and goes through tortilla chips
Now, what is Are we going for heat level or are we going for taste?
Well, mine's heat
or both.
Mine's just both. It tastes all right if you go a small amount, but if you there's a point and it's a very
I don't even have anything in mind.
It becomes just obscenely hot and
roll with it.
It's not. You don't notice flavor anymore. It just burns your whole brain out.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Sounds good. We'll probably forget, but maybe we won't.
Yeah.
Also,
Put it in the text. The group text.
chances are you're listening to this either a day or two or even on your drive for 4th of July, driving to fireworks or family or fun.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah, happy Independence Day. I've gotten into independence apparel the last couple years. I don't know if you've noticed that.
It's because you're a dad.
It's weird. I've got a new one this year. I'm pretty excited to unveil. I'll take a picture on 4th of July and put it in the Discord. So if you want to see what shirt I'm wearing for 4th of July, last year I went with the Happy Treason Day with the British flag in the background.
Yep.
And so this year I like the shirt I have this year 10 times more than last year. So if you want to see the 4th of July shirt, join our Discord.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that Discord popping the last couple weeks.
It really
does. A lot going on there.
Crazy.
Some great conversations. It's fun. It's a fun group. Yeah.
You're talking all things AI and every it's been legit.
Yeah.
It's been good.
It's fun. I check in on it quite a bit, and I was never on Discord till a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, buddy. I'm going to explain Discord to the people that don't use Discord. Social media is annoying and obnoxious, and I hate it. Discord is not that. It's like a version of social media, but the only notifications you get are from the groups that you are in. So imagine like Facebook groups, but the only notification you get is from that group.
So you don't have the ads and the stupid hand fetish content making garbage food, and
you just subtly threw that in there. Just we're moving on.
Are you not familiar enough with that?
I know.
Okay, I was gonna say that's what it is, and I will continue to call it out because I hate it.
And the 5-minute craft videos, and the V-Shred commercials, and the
hate
all of those.
I loathe it.
You don't have that, and then each group has ours has 7 sub threads. So we have our conspiracy theories thread, our episodes thread, our dank memes thread.
See, I like that because when I'm looking at it, I can tell what I'm going to be looking at. And if I'm in a hurry and I look and I'm like, oh, it's in general, I'll check it out later. Or if it's in the memes, I'm like, I can check that out later.
Or I could just, I'm going to look real quick because I don't have time. But, that's funny. All right, moving on.
Right. Yep.
There's no algorithm.
I love Discord.
There's no algorithm pushing garbage at you.
Yeah.
I love Discord. And if I were to get rid of social media like I would love to do, I would keep Discord because I've really enjoyed it. I'm in a few other groups.
And there isn't really a negative. There's no downside. It doesn't suck you in and do the thing that social media.
Well, and I think a big part of it is the people that are allowed to be in there are all, they're listeners of the show. They're fun. They have a good sense of humor.
Right.
They don't take it too seriously. They're all conspiracy theory fun guys but they don't take it too seriously.
Right.
They joke and we laugh. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's a fun time.
And we've gotten into decently heated arguments, but they're still in that light respectful. It's respectful and fun.
Yeah.
It's not. I guess heated wouldn't be the right word. Passionate. Very passionate.
There you go. Yeah,
debates and arguments, but it's not. Yeah, it's not heated. It's passionate.
And it's fun. And I don't know that they're arguments or disagreements because I don't know that anybody is disagreeing. We're all just saying this is what I found. This is what I see. This is how I feel. Nobody is saying you're wrong.
Call him out. I'm calling him out. Commandy on pre and post trib.
Okay, maybe
he will get.
He will just tell you you're wrong.
He's wrote a book on it.
And so he hasn't told me I'm wrong. How about that? Yet.
And here we go. And me and him, we don't necessarily because actually I don't necessarily not see eye to eye with him. I just am not as opinionated one way or the other as he is.
Right. And I appreciate the stuff he posts for me because it's informative and it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, he's great.
I go check it out whenever he says, "Hey, go check this out."
Yeah, he's a wise man. Yeah, I'll give him 100%. He's wise.
Definitely. Yeah.
And shout out. I don't know if we've shouted him out on the show.
I don't know if we have either.
But shout out. He's been.
Keep it interesting.
The way I ran into him and met him because it was on a different Discord chat. And we just happened to be from the same region-ish.
Right.
And he was like, oh, you're from that. Well, what's your podcast? And then he joined our Discord and he's been listening ever since. It was just crazy the way that we met. But we actually have a mutual friend in real life. And we had randomly met on a Discord for a different podcast that's worldwide. So the odds of it, and it's like a Discord that had like 5,000 people in it.
It's kind of like how I keep saying, like the universe kind of just leads us together where we're supposed to be.
Super crazy.
With who we're supposed to be there with. Like, it's kind of funny how that works sometimes. Small world
your
stuff.
word for universe is my word for the Holy Spirit. Like a lot of times I would say the Holy Spirit works it together.
Yeah, definitely.
We need to energy
It's time
drinks.
for energy drinks, yes.
All right,
Okay.
competition time.
All right.
The victor of the hybrid week was me.
Nice.
So you have you don't have any wins. You have 2 wins and I have 1 win.
Okay.
All right.
I've been practicing.
We'll let Phil go first this time. Not bad, not bad.
Not bad.
You struggled a little bit.
That sounded pretty weak from where I sat.
Your face, you strained a little.
All right. My turn? Okay.
Oh gosh, every time it's good.
I told you I've been practicing.
All right. I practiced the form too, and last week I pop the knuckles, extend the arm. All right, here we go. Ready?
Distraction. Oh, see?
I think that one goes to Tanner, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. That was good.
Practicing, man.
Yeah.
I've been practicing on I don't know. I suck.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
So
I don't
we are
feel like
drinking.
a loser.
Mike, on his way through, did you stop at Buc-ee's to get these?
Every time I drive by one.
Dude, we stopped at Buc-ee's, and have you ever had the beaver nuggets?
Yes.
They're crack.
Yeah.
They're made of crack.
Well,
Pure crack cocaine.
So my son
I bought
Caleb
3
lives in
bags.
Missouri, and they nice. Well done.
They're all gone.
I know. Sooner or later they'll come up with the industrial size, Tanner size.
Every addition
bag.
to that comment just got better.
No, Caleb. So we sent a picture to Caleb that we had got some beaver nuggets because he has one nearby where he lives in Missouri.
Yeah.
And he just said, pretty sure they put crack in those things so you can't stop eating them. So
Dude,
we agree. Yeah, they're good.
I can't even pinpoint the flavor fully because it's like this caramely black or brown sugary molassesy, just like
Yeah, it's like
a perfect.
it reminds me of
nugget.
like crunchy French toast.
Have you ever had them?
Nope.
I wish I could. I should have saved a couple so you could have tried them, but
They wouldn't have lasted.
Between Bennett and I, they just.
It's all good.
Next time you go through, bring a bag and we'll let
right.
Phil try some beaver
That's a
nuggets.
Deal.
I'm down with that.
We tried a paddle tail last time we were through too. It's like if a croissant and a cinnamon roll had a baby.
Ooh.
Dude,
Supposedly,
they're
if you
humongous, big as your face.
Oh dang! Supposedly, if you go in the morning, they have I can't remember what they're called. Like boudin. It's like a boudin croissant thing.
Boudin.
Boudin. I don't know.
Baldwin?
I'm not.
Your French accent is off.
I don't have
But I
a
still-
French
but I
accent.
still love you.
Wait.
I still say
right.
Italian.
Okay.
Like I don't. If it's not
Italian, yeah.
Spanish or English,
Okay.
my accent.
That's
doesn't
fair.
exist.
That's fair. Hey, but I knew what you were saying, so it counts.
Yeah, but they
right.
have like I hear it's amazing, but I've never been there early. But
No,
yeah,
I
this
was
is
going the afternoon.
Yeah, same. Because by the time I get there,
Yeah.
it's always afternoon.
Random question.
Redcon ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we never got to what.
Yeah, so I'm drinking
That was the point of that story.
The Vice City Strawberry Pina Colada. It tastes very more on the pina colada, less on the strawberry, but it's really good.
Mine's Prime Time Punch.
Yeah,
It's
because
kind of pineapple-y.
Bill loves Coach Prime, so we made sure to give him that one.
I do not.
And I got
best friend.
Cali
He looks up to him.
Splash, and it's kind of pineapple-y
It's kinda
and
tall.
fruit punchy too.
Yeah.
It's a little different. I like it though. It's good.
The Prime one, I didn't read that it was called Prime Punch when I tried it. And I drank it, and I got about halfway done with it, and I was like, I can't pinpoint this flavor. It is bugging me.
Yeah.
And then I read that it was Prime Punch, and I was like, oh, it's fruit punch. I'm stupid.
Yeah, same.
But it's
That's when
not-
I got it
it's not
because
your
It's not
standard
perfect.
fruit
Yeah,
punch, though.
it's not.
And
But
the can
flavor
is
that was-
deceptive.
It's very reminiscent of fruit punch, but it's not.
It's
Yeah.
more
It's not
like
fruit punch.
pineapple-y, coconutty.
The can
like
doesn't
it's not-
say tropical at all. The can is like gold and
No.
white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it bugged me for like a good half
The
hour.
can
before I was-
says
very
"See you,
confusing.
Buffaloes."
It's like it's like you know how certain smells are associated with certain colors? I
Yeah.
think the same thing goes with flavor. It tastes like blue. This does not taste like yellow.
No, it doesn't. And
wrong.
like I said, I was.
The can is wrong.
Yeah,
It tastes like it should taste like a red.
yeah. But I wasn't disappointed. Like, I like that
No,
flavor
it's good.
a lot. Yeah,
It's-
I
I
like this
liked it.
flavor too. I hadn't tried this yet. This is good.
In the ancient days of giants, when the earth was wild and free, a creature roamed the valleys, cloaked in mystery. Is he born of angels' blood and man, a Nephilim so tall, or a shadow of the fallen, yet heeding the Maker's call? He's a biblically accurate Bigfoot, with a lineage from the skies. Not a myth or legend, but a truth that never dies. Is he a remnant of the Nephilim, a titan standing tall? Or does he have the word of God upon him, the last to hear the call?
And the reason I picked Redcon 1 is kind of as a weird, like, celebratory. We talked about the Pentagon pizza
Yeah.
thing, and boy, I tell you
Follow
what,
up on that.
we recorded that talking about the pizza index, and then like 2 days later, bombs to Iran.
I don't get to do this very often
why.
on the show, but when something has been confirmed,
Oh, drinking too. I'll drink to that too.
it tastes so much better when you're right. Yeah, if you listen to the show, we recorded it a week before, and then it just happened after. It was like 2 days after we recorded, and they took out the nuclear facility and all that in Iran. And so myth confirmed, and then all of a sudden, everybody on social media is like, we knew about the pizza thing all along, and it's like, no, you didn't. Like, stop. But myth confirmed. So I'm guessing that here in the near future, we're probably gonna have to find different ways of algorithming, like you said, big brothering the big brother.
Yeah.
Because they're probably gonna hide it
They're
now.
going to catch on to it because
Yeah.
it went
I don't know. I feel
viral.
Either that, or they're just not gonna care.
I was gonna say, I feel like the Pentagon Pizza Index thing has been kind of known for a bit.
It has been, but
Like,
it hasn't gone viral
I was gonna say,
like it did this last
it's,
go around.
there hasn't been something that major since that became like a mainstream,
Yeah,
well-known thing.
that's true.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything big to test it against.
Yeah.
Yep. Every time I hear, so like what caused me to look at it the first, like in the initial phases, was them announcing that Trump was leaving the G7 summit.
Right.
I was like, and I looked it up, and sure enough, there was already a spike, and it had spiked for like 2 days straight. Every time I looked at Papa John's or Domino's, there was a spike, and then the other one was like Pizzioli or whatever, one of the other like non-chain
I
pizza places.
guarantee you
all
that's
of
the
them,
best pizza out of all of them.
probably.
Completely unrelated, just that's just the way that works.
Most likely. But yeah, no matter which one you checked, there was a spike all hours of the day. And then when Trump landed, it seemed like it spiked.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even think he went to the Pentagon. I think he went to the White House. But yeah. Interesting, huh? Interesting. But yeah, so myth confirmed. It does spike. And, or at least
Checks
it
out.
did.
We're like one for 100 right now.
Yeah, myth one.
Well, one
go.
confirmed for 100.
one
that doesn't
okay.
mean
That's true.
wrong.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Because like MK Ultra, we're not wrong.
That's true.
We're actually 100%
Yeah,
right.
so-
but we're right because it's after the fact, and we already know that it's true.
I have
And how do
I have an hour left in chaos, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And man, we covered like maybe half, probably less than half of what there is
yeah,
to cover
yeah.
on that
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
MK Ultra episodes. In what, 3 episodes? 3 episodes we did on that, and like we didn't even touch a lot of it. And like, I guess kind of segueing into our like the main topic for today, I've just become convinced more than ever that the government just lies about everything, like everything. Not even just like most things, but like almost everything. And just because they say, nope, we checked this out, it's not real, don't mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing to me. And so some of the stuff that I had kind of looked into on the Smithsonian last week that I kind of like glossed over because it was like, no, they already kind of checked this out and it's not. I'm like, okay, so
yeah.
so what? The more I listen to, or like, the more I find out about everything else that went on around the MK Ultra and Manson murders and stuff like that, it's just
Yeah.
there's so much more to it than people realize.
I wouldn't mind doing another follow-up episode
I would like
to that,
to.
because I would
like to.
I agree. I still have all my notes, and I think we maybe covered half our notes, but we just got to the point where it's like, I don't want our show. Yeah, I don't want our show to be pigeonholed into this one category. But also later on, when topics get difficult, I want to have enough freedom with some of this stuff to come back to it.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Speaking of, I went and spoke at your home church.
Yes, you did.
And your sister called you out because going back to, and I don't know if I want to share this here or if we'll re-talk about it again in another point, but because, we are biblically accurate Bigfoot, we do have to talk about Bigfoot from now and then. And she brought up that specifically the case of the Bigfoot that was sighted in Shadron, that one of the details that didn't get mentioned in the show, but I think you told me person to person, but I feel like we didn't mention it on the show.
I think you're right.
Was that the person who spotted it was a professor at the college?
Yeah.
So someone who is educated and higher up, and if they come out and go, I saw Bigfoot, probably gonna lose some credibility,
Yeah.
Well, it kind of lends credibility when.
But then on the other end, but on the other end,
it pulls both ways.
Yeah,
pulls
it
both
definitely
ways.
does.
It pulls from this way. It
definitely
takes away your
does.
credibility at the college, but it lends credibility towards the
sighting.
Yeah. I thought I mentioned that on the next. Maybe I brought it up on the next episode. Maybe not though. I don't know.
You might. Have.
I know. I mentioned it. I just
I
don't
know
remember
for
if I
sure
mentioned
we
it
talked about it.
Yeah.
Because when she brought it up, I was like, no, I feel like we did, but I don't remember if it got it on the show.
There were several points to that made me think it would be weird for somebody to say this falsely. This would be a really strange thing for someone to just make up. Yeah. This person, that whole situation was just like, I got to lend a lot of credibility towards that sighting just because.
And it's not your typical, you watch the Bigfoot shows and you see the Bigfooties. The people that chase him down there, the Bigfoot hunters that chase him down. I mean, there's a certain type.
Yeah.
And you don't think college professor when you're thinking, those sightings.
Well,
so
I don't know if you remember the episode, Mike, if you listened to it, but it also wasn't him that brought it up to other people.
Right. Yeah. He wasn't in a hurry to go tell anybody about it. Right.
Yeah. So
and I can tell you, having the weird experience I had that. You don't just talk to people about it. If somebody brings up the show and is like, "Hey, I heard about your show. Tell me more about it." And then you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you what I saw." And I basically say, because I said everything I needed to say on the show already, but I can't explain it. It doesn't make sense. I don't know what I saw, but I saw something, But you're not going to walk around telling people.
You don't just walk up to a random acquaintance and go, "Hey, do you believe in?"
Well, it's one of those things that has to come up.
I did do that to when we were playing disc golf with one of the guys on our card. I was like, I just for fun. I was like, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" And he laughed and was like, "What? Wait, do you believe in Bigfoot?" And I was like, I don't know. Just kind of moved on.
Was that saying? Yeah, I thought so.
What were you saying, Mike? Before were you saying anything?
Oh, I was just saying, unless it comes up, I'm just thinking of the theater in Alliance is listed as one of the most haunted places in Nebraska, and I worked there. And unless it kind of comes up, I don't talk about my experience. I don't just grab people and be like, "Hey, this is what happened at the theater." But I can talk about my experiences if it's in the subject. I think it's maybe kind of the same thing with talking about sightings and weird phenomena.
Maybe, dude, before summer is over, we need to talk about the theater and the Boys Ranch.
Okay.
Me and you on the show.
Yeah.
Because we talked a little bit, but I know you have some experiences that I didn't obviously share. And I still have
Phil, have you had any ghost experiences? Paranormal?
Quote unquote.
I don't know that there's much other than what I've already kind of talked about on here. Which, but I had forgotten about a lot of those until we started talking about it. You just kind of push it to the back of your mind because how do you integrate that with your life? Daily life?
Yeah. Well, and if it doesn't affect your daily life,
it's not something to think about. Well, and also I don't know, maybe.
Again, with my experiences, I never felt like I was in danger. I never felt
Yeah.
like it was like life changing.
I
It was
feel
just a
like-
weird experience that I
Right.
had.
I feel like that attitude, and that's kind of where I was going to go with what I was going to say, is that I feel like that attitude has kind of become more and more the minority because everybody like creates trauma, I feel like, almost out
Yeah.
of things. Like, oh my gosh, it was such a like life-changing experience. I'm like, was it?
Well, and being a counselor, I see that a lot.
And
Yeah.
not to minimize or downplay like how people experience things because everybody
Yeah.
gets a little bit different. But like I feel like we've kind of made like normalized being traumatized by things that don't need to be traumatized.
People want to be part of something bigger than themselves, and
Yeah.
they can't figure out how to do it, and so they latch on to trauma.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
even if they're making up their own trauma, there's real
Well, it's
trauma
like,
out there, but
for
people will
sure,
make up their own
sure.
trauma
The- okay.
feel like they can
And
relate.
And
you
there,
know?
and people,
So-
like I said, people experience it different. So, like, you know, one person might go to war and get PTSD, and another one might come back and have nostalgia. You
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
John McPhee, man, like that
Perspective, yeah.
man. That man has nostalgia. He does not have PTSD.
Yeah. Well, that's like growing up, the amount of people who quote unquote identified with Linkin Park songs who came from like
dear
amazing households,
right. Yeah.
phenomenal, and obviously, like you said, you can't know for sure, but the odds that all of my entire class were dealing with trauma growing up are pretty small.
Right.
But all of
Yeah.
them are like, this song, the like Breaking the Habit, this song just hits, and I just look at it and be like, really?
Oh, it does hit.
How does this hit?
It does.
I
hit.
know
It's
your
just
family.
not
You know?
relatable.
Yeah.
Just because it hits,
Yeah, like,
like it's relatable.
Bro, this isn't you, man. This is not you. But anyway, not to judge people. What's that viral thing that's like, we talk, we
listen
don't
and we don't judge.
Yeah.
We listen and we don't judge.
We're the opposite.
Yeah.
We don't listen and we do judge.
It's true.
Okay, speaking of other local things, did you guys see all the videos of the tornado that hit in South Dakota?
Yeah.
Dude, it looks
like
fake.
AI.
Yeah.
It looks fake. It's to the point now where even real stuff I don't. How do you even explain that?
Yeah.
It was. It looked like AI. It was crazy. Have you seen a bunch of them?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
and nuts. And then did you see the stuff? It's not as local, but the Lake Tahoe weather
Oh, I missed that.
out of nowhere. It was just a calm day, and then all of a sudden a freak snowstorm. This happened this last week. A snowstorm comes up and creates like hurricane-like weather, sinks like 8 boats, and I think like between 8 or 10 people passed away.
Wow.
Just out of nowhere. Just freak snowstorm on Lake Tahoe. I think some things about our weather are weird, but I have a sub theory that, okay, this is going to be quick and we can move on to the Smithsonian. But so they've been plugging earthquakes and earthquake, everything that goes along with earthquakes, because there's certain things that spike and peak and electromagnetics and stuff like that. They've been running that through AI. And AI has gotten to the point where it can now predict earthquakes days before they happen and has successfully now predicted a couple of pretty big earthquakes
Yep.
days before it happened. So we know that they're plugging our weather into AI. Why can the AI still not predict our weather? And my theory is because our weather is so manipulated these days that there's no pattern, because it's just dependent upon what and where has been manipulating and how it affects everything else. Because how does a freak snowstorm happen on Lake Tahoe that's that huge and AI couldn't have seen it coming? Weird, right? And
maybe like you have to direct AI. It's still at the point where it's not free thinking. So if it's not looking for a freak snowstorm, is it just going to randomly see one? If it's,
I don't know. I
don't know. That's just a thought, just a devil's advocate.
I would think
it.
that
I don't know.
the AI would be able to read computer programs. Like if you fed it the computer programs and then fed it the real weather, I feel like by now it should be able to at least somewhat predict the same way. Because if a computer program can predict it, then AI should be able to predict it, right?
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
Yes. Yeah.
So AI should be more accurate because it can plug all of the models together and learn off of what does actually occur. Whereas the computer models, they don't really learn. They just change their models and basically say, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that this can happen, you know?
Right. Just
Whereas-
matches the data.
Yeah. I don't know. But weather manipulating is one of those things that it was a conspiracy theory, but has become a confirmed theory through time. and governments have admitted to doing it.
Yeah.
And like that's like the thing that happened in Saudi Arabia. I think it was Saudi Arabia. Where was it? No, it was the United Arab Emirates, where they cloud seeded for 2 days. And then the 2 days after that, they had 100 years worth of rain in like an hour. And then they were like, it had nothing to do with cloud seeding. like heck, it didn't. Anyway. All right. Weather manipulation.
I wonder if the Smithsonian is part of that. I
Great,
really do.
Great transition.
Thank you.
He's good.
Super smooth and not
good.
clunky or awkward at all.
Well, so
But I really do.
He just dropped it in the first and hit the gas.
So speaking of the Smithsonian being
Clutch
involved, but I'm gonna touch that thing down because you shot the rocket or
see
whatever
what we
the
did
plane.
there?
What?
Do you see what we did there?
What?
Just going to touch it down. Tornadoes.
Usually Courtney is the one doing that. So I'm gonna land the plane. There we go. So speaking of the Smithsonian being involved in things that you wouldn't think that they're involved in,
Everything.
during World War II and the Cold War era between the 40s and the 70s, the documents they kept and stored and we'll just say we'll leave it at that. So in the 90s, they started the documents started surfacing that the Smithsonian was storing classified Cold War documents. Why would the Smithsonian, which is a museum, be involved with storing classified military documents?
I can answer that.
Okay.
It's because, and this is from what I was researching just this morning, okay? I got into the legal side of the Smithsonian. And basically, what I have determined, and I'll just throw the conspiracy theory out up front. Now, it's not even really a conspiracy theory. It's just what I believe is the case based on evidence. The Smithsonian is not subject, because it's a museum, it is not subject to the same rules and regulations as far as like FOIA requests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They don't have to give out the information like the actual federal government does. But it's still a government-funded institution. It's basically a government-ran institution. And so they don't have to disclose a lot of what they do, like almost any of it. And so basically, if the federal government wants to, they can just kind of feed whatever into the Smithsonian and it never has to come back out at all. And that's legal.
Just gets filed on level
Why?
42.
Yep.
Never seen again.
It really is. It just, I mean, it's
Yeah,
like a
that makes
freaking
sense.
So
File 13. It is just a straight up big old File 13 as a museum.
and that fits into literally the next sentence of what I was going to say was
Perfect.
that whistleblowers claim that the Smithsonian specifically holds documents that would challenge what the public narrative was, so that the public narrative never gets challenged. Speaking like what they did with how many
Manson.
other things.
Yeah, that makes
Keldra.
sense. That's funny. So you going way back to when you guys talked about like JFK and releasing those files and things. Allegedly, I saw that the Smithsonian allegedly has JFK's brain on file there. That's one of the conspiracy theories. They don't.
I thought his brain was exploded.
They don't deny. Well, the exploded leftovers of his brain, because the theory is that it would prove where the bullet comes from, and because it's there, nobody can reanalyze it.
Because like if the back is
Like Phil was talking about,
blown.
Have you read or listened to
but
Chaos yet?
allegedly they have it too. They have that.
You did?
Yeah, I did before when we did the actual.
Okay, I
thing.
couldn't remember if you'd actually gotten through it or not.
I found it midway through, but I just speed.
I was going to
just
say,
sped through.
so I'm trying to remember. I can't, dude, we've talked about so much. I have a hard time remembering. Did you mention that Jolly West interviewed / examined Jack Ruby?
Yes,
Okay, I couldn't remember if you had mentioned that or not.
and a few other
Because
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
He had his fingers in so many freaking pies. I couldn't.
He did.
Like
Absolutely, he did.
that.
His name came up with so many.
Like
if there was
all of
any,
it.
any
Yeah,
any
anything-
chance for him to be involved, his name was in there somewhere. Yeah, that was
like
crazy.
ongoing.
I had
like
forgotten
not even
how
like
Almost seems like it was like he wasn't a real person. It was like a title almost. Is what
yeah,
it felt
it
like
almost
because he's
felt
in
like he's
everything. It was just a
everywhere.
title. It wasn't really
but he's
an
not
actual
involved.
person.
Yeah, right. But he's
That was
somehow
crazy.
but he's not involved.
Yep.
I
don't-
figured, dude, I need to go back and listen to our episodes on JFK Files and MK Ultra and Manson, all that stuff, just so I get a better feel. Because I can't even remember what all we had talked about.
Yeah.
So much.
I do want to do follow-ups on
But yeah.
yeah,
I wonder
so-
what Smithsonian knows on that.
So the Smithsonian, one thing we didn't, because we kind of talked about the history and the making of it, and then now this week or today, we're talking about more like specific controversies. But one thing I didn't get into last week that I wanted to and I forgot was, so now currently the Smithsonian oversees 19 museums.
Yep.
And shout out Commandy again. He gets 2 in one episode. He was talking about how he went to the museum and he was so like frustrated because it was such a weak museum. And then he realized that he was in the wrong one of the Smithsonians and he wasn't in the Smithsonian.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they have 19 museums. They have, okay, so 19 museums, 21 libraries, and this is what is publicly available.
Yep.
There's conspiracy about what else they have, but 19 museums, 21 libraries, 9 research centers, and the National Zoo.
And a crap load of affiliate museums
A lot of
and
affiliate
research centers across the world.
And the biggest conspiracy theory, which I think there's been numerous people who have kind of like talked about it, are the storage facilities underneath.
Yeah.
That hasn't.
The
I
different
don't. I
floors
couldn't
and
find
things.
an official source, but from everything that I could find, there was more than like 20 stories worth of.
Well, and even one guy that I
And a
listened
frozen
to,
facility too.
yeah, that they took him to the fourth level, and they wouldn't even tell him how many levels there were. And he had special access.
Was that the Dire Wolf dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they took him to like the fourth level or something, and he said there's at least 20 levels, but he goes, I don't even know. They wouldn't even tell me how many levels there are.
Yeah, and they have
so
an
secretive.
Yeah.
They have an entire frozen facility for stuff that has to remain frozen. That like it's got like backup generators, and then the backup generators have backup generators because it's that important that the things in there don't ever thaw. And it's like, okay, what are you holding in there? You know?
Diseases.
Or it could be. It could also be like, like you said, JFK remains that maybe
And giants.
and giants.
And
They're
ghosts.
frozen live tundra giants.
So-
well, there is the. I feel like at one point they did have the intact woolly mammoth there
Yeah.
in the frozen
I
facility.
remember. Yeah.
It just blows my mind how like secretive they are and how like blatant they are about it. Because it's not like they're telling you like it's not like they actively deny anything. They just won't they're just like we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what do you mean? Talk
Yeah,
about
we
what?
talk-
Can we
we-
talk about what we're not going to talk
Well,
about? I'm just like, nope.
I do feel like the best way to not ever get yourself involved in controversy by saying the wrong thing is to never have a stance.
Right. And we've talked about that they don't deny a lot of things, but they also don't confirm anything.
No, they just
Anything.
And
Yeah.
thinking
Anything.
through like, okay, so just for example, Donald Trump he's not known for keeping it tight to the chest. He's pretty good at rambling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And through that, if you are a discerning person, you can oftentimes read between the lines of what he's trying to say. But he's also the quote unquote art of the deal guy. And so he's negotiating so he purposely is over talking and releasing too much on purpose. And so there's all this other stuff that's like, 99% of people think that he should just stop talking as our president. But but for that example, and now think of the exact opposite approach. That's the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
We're not going to say anything because you can't speculate off of anything or off of nothing.
Right.
Whereas Trump, on the other hand, he talks so much you can over speculate very easily with what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
And you can get yourself into some trouble by over speculating. And he's also revealing more than India. But anyway, and I feel like that's in the same vein or in the opposite vein. The Smithsonian doesn't say anything, but sometimes when they slip up, you know what I mean? And we talked a little bit last week about the skeleton thing. There was one specific slip up where they sent the stuff to the Smithsonian and the Smithsonian signed off that they had received it.
Right.
They were giant skeletons. And so the Smithsonian signed off on it. And then 100 years down the road, they were like, not even that far, but it was a while down the road. People were like, hey, what about the giants that, you received in, I think it was the one that was received in 1912. And they were like, well, no, that never happened. And they were like, well, here's this official document that is signed by you that I received. Oh, well, we'll look into it. And then they look into it and they're like, oh, we found the caskets, but there were no remains in it. So it's likely they got sent to us empty.
Yeah.
It's like, oops.
I came across too, along those same lines. There's a lot of times that the Smithsonian signed for something. And then when they ask them about it, they say, well, we signed for it. We were supposed to receive it. They just never sent it. We never got it.
Yeah.
You would think an institution that big, if I didn't get it, you know what I mean? Like they'd be hunted. I know if I have a bill due and it doesn't come in the mail on time, they're all over me.
And so,
so that's interesting. They're like, oh no, we never got it. We signed for it. We have a file that they sent it, but we never received it. So we don't know where it is.
So I circled back to an article that I bumped into before the previous episode. An article talking about like the giant remains thing and that there was, so it was basically saying this story was debunked. Now the original story that they were talking about, I guess, was published in 2014 in World News Daily Report, which I don't know if that's I have no idea what their credibility looks like. I don't know. But talking about apparently allegedly,
credibility.
Yeah.
We don't care.
We don't talk about credibility on this.
Go ahead.
Allegedly, there was a Supreme Court case, and the Supreme Court basically forced the Smithsonian to release documents from the early 1900s, which proved that they did have like remains of giants. And they were saying that this was totally debunked and this whole thing didn't exist and none of it ever happened. But I just can't. Why? like how is someone just pulling that completely out of their butt? Like I get if they were wrong about details or they were kind of like extrapolating in data that wasn't really there, but like just totally making it up. Like a Supreme Court case, you're gonna tell me that a Supreme Court case happened, or like the Supreme Court pushed them to do this and then that just didn't happen at all? The Supreme Court was never involved. They never even looked at it.
Right.
The whole thing just didn't exist. I'm like, that feels like in chaos, like just completely deleting the whole thing. Just didn't happen. Deny all of it. Pretend it didn't happen.
So here's a thought I had.
Just gaslighting.
After we talked about the Smithsonian and giants and all that stuff, is I'm like, why is it being hidden? Us knowing about giants, what does that change about history and us? What is the secret that is so important that we can't know that giants existed? We know dinosaurs existed.
Right.
That came out. Was it because the Smithsonian couldn't stay enough ahead of it that it finally became public, that they were like, oh yeah, we have dinosaurs, and they just stayed ahead of the giant thing enough to keep? But why? What does there being giants or not being giants change about our daily life or our world? Why? That's the question that keeps popping up in my head.
Okay.
So
you go ahead.
Okay. So I have some other missing artifacts that might. And this is where
a piece of
I'm going to speculate and let people come to their own conclusions.
Okay.
The other supposed missing artifacts that were in the same thing as the giants sent in and like documented, they signed over, they received it, and then they disappeared. Other things were numerous fossilized like hammers and chisels that are fossilized inside of coal seams.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's a big one. Numerous of them. And then another one is out of place, and we'll talk a little bit more on this. I'm going to expand on this episode. Out of place inscriptions like Hebrew and Egyptian found in America at cave sites, at like American sites.
Yeah, and there are a lot of reports of those.
So
that never showed up and never happened.
Theory, if the Earth isn't quite as old as they claim it is, some other things dramatically change.
You're going in a similar direction to where I'm...
Yeah? Good.
Yeah.
So, coal.
Not the same, but adjacent.
They have proved now you can create coal in as little as 24 hours. But, historically speaking, coal took millions of years to create. If there is coal in if there's human man-made, like we made it, there's stamps on it, we know it's not old, that are encased in coal, then that means that coal isn't a non-renewable resource and can be made faster than they claim it is. And so therefore, back in the day at least, coal was what oil is to us today. The coal money was the big money.
Yeah. And if you control the flow, you control the prices. It's part of the reason diamonds are so expensive. Like most of the diamonds have been discovered and they're just sitting in people's warehouses, but because they control the circulation.
Well, and they can create diamonds like that now.
Yeah.
They can create them so fast. And so that's the big thing about authentic versus man-made diamonds and stuff like that.
I like where you're going with this.
And then eventually it turns into oil. And so if let's just say this, I'm going to throw this out there because this is the big conspiracy theory right now, is that oil is not actually the remains of petrified dinosaurs, but is instead, and again, I'm just saying this is a conspiracy theory that is very heavily gaining steam out there, is a natural byproduct of our inner core and the mantle, the byproduct of the contact of them, and then the oil comes and makes its way to the surface in seams as a byproduct of that reaction.
Okay.
Because NASA straight up recently said that they found a planet that is basically made out of oil, like natural oil.
I have a feeling there's going to be a conflict there.
So, again, just a theory.
Come on.
That if the Earth isn't as old as it is, all of a sudden, the biggest, the major companies that control these things now no longer have the aspect of rarity to control the price. And now energy in and of itself is one of the biggest issues, because if energy became free, life as we know it would completely change.
True.
Okay.
And so if energy is free or cheap or dirt cheap, everything changes. Well, if the Earth isn't quite as old as they say it is, and let's say the biblical accounts are correct, or let's say, whatever, we may not even necessarily say that it's only 6,000 years, but let's say it's not millions of years old. And let's say that some of the like in Egypt, there's hieroglyphs of dinosaurs before that we even knew dinosaurs existed, that like accurate portrayals of them.
Right.
So what if dinosaurs and man existed at the same time, and they existed side by side, and let's just go crazy with it. Let's just throw, and I'm not even saying I believe this. I'm just saying I'm going to throw this crazy theory out there. Let's say dinosaurs roamed the earth when the pyramids were created. All of a sudden now it becomes easier to create the pyramids, and now all of a sudden the narratives start changing, and we start throwing all of this, and everything that we know is pure chaos, and the history as we know it is completely made up and fake, and it is all encompassing to control and push a narrative. So now I'm going to rein it back a little bit into like reality, or not even necessarily it's not reality, but just I'm going to rein it back in a little bit and just kind of bring it back into like common, like today thought, going back to the coal and the oil and stuff like that. That is a major issue. And even today, the people who control the oil, if you even look at what's going on present day in like the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
Oil is the major contention.
Yeah, look how many like fights and wars we've gotten involved in just because of oil. It didn't have anything to do with morale, morals, right, or politics or any of that. It came down to money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came down to the price of oil.
So
yeah, go Phil. Go ahead.
That ties in really, really nicely, actually, to what I was going to go with, because the thing that I started to notice because I was trying to find like human behavior stuff, because I want to know if they were involved in like MK Ultra stuff, a lot of human psychology research. There's very little talk about that. In terms of the Smithsonian, what there's a crap load of, and honestly the only thing that I could find a lot of their research on is evolution and human history. There's a crap load of that. Like
they have one of their museums. That's all they have.
It's like the only thing that I could find the actual research on and them talking about publicly, and there's a lot of it. And so one of the more interesting things I found was that one of the like prize artifacts that the Smithsonian has is allegedly like the first human tool that we have, like the earliest one, which they date to about 2 million years old. Which is interesting to me because the scientific community at large kind of seems to agree that humanity's in like the 400,000 year old range. So they're saying it's like 3 to 4 times older than that. And why? Like there's so much, like they publish like a yearly list of like 13 or 14 new things we found out about human evolution. The Smithsonian posts like every year.
Yeah.
Why? Like it feels like that's the only narrative that they like really publicly try to drive, and they are driving it hard. And so I was like, why? Maybe that's why. Maybe the energy sales thing is why. Like if they can convince everybody that no, humanity is this old, and it was before even that all the fossil fuel quote unquote fossil fuels were being created and formed, and it took that long to form. We can't replace oil with like we can't. It's not renewable. We can't make more.
Right.
So man, I wonder that.
Well, it's interesting because
my question was why. That's kind of answers the why.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And a basic principle of physics is, as far as energy goes, because that's what we're talking about is energy, is that energy doesn't dissipate. It redistributes.
Yep.
So, we're never going to run out of energy. We just have to figure out where it's going and what we're,
how to
just
reharness
reuse it. Yeah.
Well, and
wow, that's deep.
I am a major proponent is the right word, right? I'm for. I think if you want to ask questions about energy right now, and I know there's so many people who will disagree with me, but like if you really do some research and realize that new nuclear energy facilities and how safe they actually are, new nuclear energy processing plants are so much better for our environment in the long run than even the windmills or the, whatever you want to say. Like it's why in America we are so wealthy. We spend so much money on this stuff. Why have we not made energy like free in America, basically, with nuclear facilities? But instead we're spending all this, I'm talking about like all the like green deals and stuff. And it's like, we're going to spend all this money to just scavenge this one resource. And we're going to destroy entire ecosystems to find this one resource so that we can put it in a car battery so that our cars can run off of electricity easier and stuff like that. And it's like, but we're in these windmills and we're going to do all this and solar, and we're going to invest so heavily into all this stuff. And we're just decimating ecosystems.
I think Chernobyl freaked people out.
Yeah.
Now, the idea of Chernobyl freaked people out, and it still freaks people out.
But Chernobyl, the technology that even they used in Chernobyl versus nuclear technology,
which is where I was going to go with it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not.
It's different.
Okay. And not only that, China has invented it's basically, I wish I would have, I didn't know we were going here today. I wish I would have researched it, but China created it's basically a nuclear facility, but it's not nuclear, but it's the other version of it that they were researching.
It's nuclear, not nuclear.
Yeah, right. But basically the argument is the reason that we push so heavily in nuclear is because as a result of it, we also have the weaponry. Whereas this other form of, I think it's another form of fission, creates a clean, and there's no aftermath, so there's no war byproduct.
Just the word nuclear freaks people out.
It does.
It does. You want to freak people out? Throw the word nuclear into any speech, and it'll freak people out.
I want to know if there are any conspiracy theories circulating about the possibility of like Chernobyl, Fukushima, 3 Mile Island being orchestrated events, because. Man, considering how much there is pushing like for the how do I want to say this? Considering how much evidence I feel like there is for conspiracies all around the energy industry, like all of that being guided, it feels like it's too convenient that there were a few things that freaked people out about nuclear, and that's the reason that we refuse to go down that path, even though it is clearly the best option that we have right now. Currently, as far as clean and efficient and just good for the environment.
And it is being more accepted. I know they're looking for a site here in Nebraska to build one because my son Camden, my two boys, he's going into electrical engineering, and he got to be like part of the college team that was looking at some different places in Nebraska to put one. But everybody, like people were freaked out about it. We don't want it in our town, you know, kind of thing.
It feels like we're getting closer, but man, the amount of damage that did to the those
still
has done to the public perception of nuclear energy is insane. Yeah. And it just feels like,
and the staying power of it too, because like even now you still can't go to Chernobyl. Yeah. And that was it just decades and decades ago.
It feels the same as like, I keep going back to that because chaos has blown my mind. But it feels like that type of deal where we need the public perception of this to be a certain way. Yeah. And so we're going to orchestrate an event that forces the public to examine it this way. And then we're going to direct the narrative so that they have to see it this way. And it's the only way you're allowed to see it. Yeah. That's what it feels like. And I don't know. I haven't done any research on that, but I want to. I'd like to do an episode on that.
So one of the things that we don't, and I want to kind of close, if it's cool with you guys, close the nuclear talks so we can finish the Smithsonian. Yep. But I looked it up, and so China is actively expanding its capacity. They're trying to build 150 new reactors by 2035. 150 new reactors. They also have, and I don't know if this is what they were. I'll have to find the article, and if I do, I'll post it in the Discord. But they have a thorium molten salt reactor, which doesn't have the byproducts, and a small modular reactor. They're also trying to start construction on the world's first fusion-fission hybrid nuclear power plant. That sounded
that sounded bad.
That sounded racist as all. That was amazing. We're going to build a nuclear power plant.
Yes. Oh man, you got to work on your accents, man. You got to work on your accents.
Deuterium. Oh, racism.
We use the deuterium for the fission.
But anyway, so and I have a small theory about that. And I just want to throw it out there, just to drop a bomb and then leave it, and we're not even going to talk about it.
What kind of bomb?
The population of China is like dangerously declining, because they had instituted so many laws and things like limiting production, and now we're entering in this weird age of like the first worlds are experiencing population declines, and China's population is declining so fast that like it could potentially collapse their country within the next decade. And so we're seeing them starting to switch over and trying to create as many factories and things that they can that don't need people, so that their economy doesn't collapse. And they just unveiled the very first ever completely humanless dark manufacturing plant. They don't even need lights in it. It's just dark, and all you see, if you ever see the video, it's just the flashes of light from them welding, and that's all that is in there, because it doesn't need humans. The only human it needs like one person just overseeing things if anything breaks, so they can shut it down. That's it. So they're trying to do as much as they possibly can. So their push to go nuclear is to basically create a system where they don't need people to run the coal and the other plants that they have. And but anyway, and so they're pushing it hard, and America might find itself in a place where we're going to, with the amount of energy that AI takes, there's a reason why China is pushing to create more and more energy, and America is. And I was listening to a podcast just the other day, and about a guy who basically his company is the one who enriches uranium for America, and he's saying that America is going to find themselves without enough energy to even run the AI machines that they're currently building, because the more and more advanced AI becomes, the more and more energy it takes, and so the cost of energy in America is going to get dramatically more expensive if we don't start building more nuclear facilities. And they even have started to recommission old nuclear facilities that they had shut down that run on old nuclear technologies because they need the energy so much. They're restarting these old technology nuclear plants. I think it was 2 Mile Island or something like that.
3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island. Just because we're so far behind in our energy needs in America, and like look at the rolling blackouts in California and stuff. But we have the technology in nuclear to completely avoid that. And then what happened in Texas a couple of years ago? Nuclear isn't going to get shut down because an ice storm rolls through Texas. But anyway, I'm off my soapbox. We're dropping that bomb. Thank you. Have a good evening. Let's move to Smithsonian.
I wonder what does the Smithsonian have nuclear research? Is that one of their projects?
Ooh, you know what I did? You know what the Smithsonian does have?
What?
So during World War II, they were trying to invent guided missiles. Mm-hmm. And I found they have, and they admitted to having this, but they had pigeon guided missiles.
Yes. Oh, I know about
They
this.
have little cages, and the pigeons peck. They're trained to peck the images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Electrician did a great video on that.
I was like, what in the world? And it was B.F. Skinner was the guy who invented it.
Yep.
You know, and kind of interesting because
It was actually like
it was pretty doggone
crazy,
accurate.
yeah.
It worked.
Crazy
And,
how
and even he went on record to say this would have worked if you know if the tech hadn't surpassed it.
Yeah.
This would have been the way to do things.
It was
Just
functional.
killing
it
pigeons.
Worked fine. It's just they had a better alternative.
Yes.
Yeah.
A better alternative came about while they were researching.
But
While they
it
were doing
worked.
it. But
It
I was
worked.
like, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, talking
that's
about bombs in the Smithsonian. Yeah, they still. I guess I haven't seen it, but I guess they have one of the original bombs with the little cage you can see where the pigeon would sit. And stuff.
To throw in a quick tidbit about the Smithsonian and ethical research. Shockingly, so I like I said, I really wanted to know what they were doing as far as like human behavior stuff, and there's not really anything public about it. But I did see there was another one of those things that was Smithsonian's like human subjects research, and shockingly there was no, like, when you click on it, it's 404 not found.
Oh yeah,
you know that whole thing. But again, it'll still show like the like summary thing underneath. And here's what it said underneath that. Caption reads, "Our Institutional Review Board, ellipses 606, research involving human subjects is to ensure that all Smithsonian research activities involving human subjects comply with applicable laws, regulations, ethical principles, ellipses, terminated." I just thought it was interesting that went to a page not found.
Yeah.
Gosh, dude.
I
I think that's one of the things about the Smithsonian that I think is the most predominant concern of mine is the gatekeeping of fringe theories. Mm-hmm. They do a very...
They're the beginning and the end of every theory that comes up.
If they want to squash something, it gets squashed.
Yep.
It doesn't. And in research, like through like collegiate programs and stuff, if the Smithsonian comes out and basically says this is a fringe theory, we don't accept it, it becomes like a fireable thing for major universities to teach the fringe theories that the Smithsonian disagrees with.
Right.
Well, one of the originals, it was the soft tissue in dinosaur bones, because soft tissue isn't supposed to survive more than like 10,000 years or something like that. Yeah. It's like a really limited amount of time.
Yeah.
And they started finding soft tissue in dinosaur bones. So that means one of two things: either soft tissue survives longer than 10,000 years, or dinosaurs are less than 10,000 years old. One or the other.
So you're wrong about science, or you're lying about science?
One or the other. And they pushed it out, and like there for a while, anybody who found soft tissue in a dinosaur bone was fired for finding soft tissue, not even pushing the theory.
Right.
Because there was a lady who found
not
it.
allowed
And
to
she's like,
report
we
that you
found
found
this. We don't know what to do with it. It's soft tissue. And
Yeah.
she was fired. I think it was from, I need to look it up before. So don't quote me on this. Do your own research. As always with the show, do your own research. But I'm pretty sure she was fired from like Harvard for finding soft tissue.
And again, they can get away with this crap because they fall in that like perfect gap between private and federal government.
Yeah.
And so they have the like legal protection of the federal government. They're as irreproachable as the federal government, but they also have the privacy protections of being a private institution. And so they kind of walk that line. It's kind of like how the whole CIA functions on the like, we claim you until you screw up, and then we don't claim you. Like
Right,
we never met
Yeah.
you if you get in trouble, but like we got you if you just need our resources and support and stuff like that. And so like it's like the institutionalized version of that.
Yeah.
And it's so freaking bothersome to me that they can do that. They can just say like, yeah, no, we just no. Whatever you're thinking, no.
The structure of the Smithsonian, I think I mentioned it last week, but we're on the topic and we've talked about it already this week. The structure of the Smithsonian reminds me so much of MK Ultra.
Yeah.
That it's hard for me to like distinguish between the two because the structure of it and the way that they deny things, the way that they hide things, the way that they do things, it's government, but it's top secret government. And I still go back to, why is a museum ever top secret?
Yeah.
A museum should literally never, not even a single time, be top secret. It's a museum.
It's the
There's
point.
no
Like,
reason
it's
for it to ever be top secret.
It's the exact antithesis of top secret.
Why does a museum have 20 levels plus of top secret things that they are hoarding? It's a museum. It should have none of those things.
It's like an undercover top secret. It's like top secret.
Yeah, it's
because
like highest level
Yeah.
top secret.
It's like money laundering for top secret stuff.
For top secret stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what it feels like to me.
So let me talk one specific top secret thing that was hided and hoarded. Have you seen the Grand Canyon Egyptian cave stuff?
Yes.
Okay, so if you didn't know what that is, back in the early 1900s, there were a few different sources, but the main one that people quote today is the Arizona Gazette in an article from April 5th that you can actually go and read. A scientist by the name of G.E. Kincaid, who worked for the Smithsonian, found a vast underground cave system that is throughout the Grand Canyon with different entrances in a certain area. And inside this cave system, he alleged to find Egyptian artifacts, hieroglyphs, and statues like the god Osiris and even some mummies in the Grand Canyon. So the fallout of that is the Smithsonian today denies any knowledge or expedition of the archaeology of the Grand Canyon. The location where this was alleged is actually today, there's signs up even that the zone is non-explorable and forbidden under protection from the government. And their reasoning is they want to protect the natural habitat of the Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that they do things like create, what's it called? Is it the Hoover Dam? Mm-hmm. They create the Hoover Dam and completely destroy entire ecosystems of the Grand Canyon, while at the same time, other areas that are controversial are now protected ecosystems. Sounds kind of contradictory in that they were doing this about the same time. And you can also find old topographical maps that actually label certain areas of the canyon as Isis Temple and Osiris points. So why, when you see that, and then you start to think things of like, okay, when you look at like the old money, or not the old money, the money today of America, how many Egyptian symbols and names and relics and stuff like that you see even tied into our money today, in America.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Why? Why are there so many overriding points? And then, so why things like that would the Smithsonian, and then the Smithsonian, even now today, they've changed their stance a little bit. they now claim that G.E. Kincaid never even existed.
Oh yeah, from what I read, like he disappeared. Like just all of a sudden he just didn't exist anymore.
Did he disappear or did he get disappeared?
Allegedly, the Smithsonian says not only did he disappear, the Smithsonian is saying that he never even existed.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So not only did they disappear, allegedly, not only allegedly did they disappear him, they erased him from history, if he did exist.
But what's interesting too, in what I saw with that, is that the local natives knew about these ruins too, and they talked about it was the people that came before them. It was the Star people, and they were descendants of those, and it was kind of a sacred place, and so they kind of left it alone. So they knew this cave system was there, you know. But yeah, they sent what I read, there was like 30 or 40 scientists that the Smithsonian sent out there, and then they all came back and said, well, that never happened. We never sent anybody, and this Kincaid guy just disappeared.
You know what bugs me about the Grand Canyon cave systems thing is that it reminds me of Billy Carson.
Yeah, a little bit.
And that hurts.
But I mean,
I'm not saying it really lends credibility to it, but it's like.
But one of the lores that we've talked about as a hypothetical here is that the moving of God of the Tower of Babel and separating people might have, and maybe as a cause of the flood as well, might have been the continents drifting. And there is worldwide flood lore everywhere. Mm-hmm. So if there was a worldwide flood, you could think that the continents could have shifted quite a bit during that period of time. And if the worldwide flood happened to have happened 5,000 years ago, well, that could line up decently with the Egyptians, and all of this could have been connected. And if it was all connected, and the Egyptians were the powerful, society or whatever. Let's say now in the lore of the BAB, if they were Nephilim, were led, and the pharaohs were Nephilim, and all of this other stuff, the continents shift, and we're erased from history, we're erased from all this stuff, and the next 5,000 years occur. And you start seeing, like you said, Native Americans had the lore and they knew of this stuff. That means they would have been around at that point in time, and it would have survived. The lore would have survived. And how many hundreds of thousands of years could that lore survive? Probably not. But a few thousand, definitely.
Well, and back to the Smithsonian thing too. They with the crystal skulls. I looked into the crystal skull thing with the 13 crystal skulls and the Mayans and all of that stuff. And those crystal skulls, the Smithsonian says that it was one German guy that seeded these skulls all over the earth. Yeah. But they were found at different times in different continents by different cultures. Yeah. Like if we're talking about Tower of Babel being one place and then the continent shifted, it would make sense why we have pyramids on every continent, why they were finding these crystal skulls on every continent. Right. Like they found them in Tibet and South America. They found them all over the place, And so, I don't know, just along those same lines, real convenient that the Smithsonian says, no, it's just some German dude just playing a prank.
Yep. Yeah. I forgot about the crystal skulls. I did a lot. That might have been.
I was fascinated with the crystal skulls for a while.
Yeah, that might have been one of the very weird stuff conspiracy theory I got into.
Like I saw one where they put some electricity through it and it like makes smells. Yeah, depending on the amps of electricity you put through it, it makes different smells come out of this crystal. Like,
and they're like
weird stuff,
and they're made out of the same thing that we make computer chips out of.
Yeah. And like they're polished, not carved.
It's
just weird. They're weird. Yeah. They're weird.
So speaking of artifacts, and this would be the last thing I really, really have. Mm-hmm.
Ghosts. Have you got ghosts in the Smithsonian? Did you know nobody's allowed in the Smithsonian after midnight because of the ghosts?
I totally forgot. What? That was the one thing I was
Nobody's allowed to be in the Smithsonian after midnight because there's ghosts.
Mike, I forgot. I totally said I was going to share it this week because I've been there and I took pictures. And I couldn't find the pictures, but all over the Smithsonian, I have pictures, and there's this octopus orb that shows up. And I did them, and I took the pictures with disposable cameras. 3 different disposable cameras.
Nice.
Developed at 2 different times.
Ghosts.
All have octopus orbs on them. In the Smithsonian.
So if you believe in like relics and like things being possessed and maybe demonic and things like that, imagine how much demonic relics and just different spiritual things are just thrown in a cabinet somewhere there.
And imagine if the Smithsonian is doing all of this stuff that we're alleging, the whole purpose of it has to be, in my mind, money, power, and maybe first and foremost, discrediting religion.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so if that's their purpose, to discredit religion, you would have to think there's got to be some demonic roots in there, some demonic intentionality.
But yeah, so the director made a new rule in the 90s that there's nobody allowed after midnight because there's like even animal ghosts and things. Like there was like
crazy
freaking people, like Night at the Museum type stuff, like ghosts haunting the place after midnight.
I'm going to look this week really hard and find some of those pictures and post them on the Discord.
That'd be cool.
So I really want to, because I have, and it freaked me out when I developed. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Do you remember seeing them?
But it's funny, like you don't think about those things until I was looking. And I was like, ghosts. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I totally forgot. And I was going to mention
discrediting religion was kind of the original thought that I had when I was finding like the evolution stuff, which I guess is not mutually exclusive. The money and power of discrediting, that's all kind. It all kind of ties together.
So speaking of discrediting, for real though. So on that point exactly. Speaking of discrediting, I wanna end with a few other. Did you have anything else?
No, that was my mic drop.
The ghost. That was perfect. It reminded me of something that I needed to. It reminded me of something, and so to close on this, some other out of place artifacts. So I just wanted to end on this, and so I saved them for this. One of the main out-of-place artifacts that the Smithsonian has is the human footprints in rock that is next to and embedded with dinosaur prints.
Yep, you've talked about that before. Yep.
They have that. They also have the advanced tools that we don't know what they did. And they look like modern machinery, like modern gears and stuff like that for machinery and stuff. Well, we can't figure out what they are, but they were found in 300 million year old coal seams.
Yeah.
What? Pots. There's China pots that would have only been a few thousand years old, found in coal seams. Another one, it is called the Koso artifact. It is a spark plug inside of a geode.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
What?
Time travel is the big theory that goes along with a lot of those.
So, and I guess for me, the old adage of the most logical solution is probably the correct one. So the most logical, and either way, your argument is time travel real, or do geodes just take less time to make than they claim it is?
Yeah.
But either way, whichever way you want to go with that, they're hiding something. And then the last one is the Egyptian-style statues, coins, and tablets that have been found in Illinois, Georgia, and Arizona. Again, with the Egyptian-style stuff.
Right.
So either way,
I don't trust the Smithsonian.
There's also the history of, because they kind of hid the fact that like numerous cultures knew of America prior to Europe coming over.
Yeah, New World might.
Right. Not only that, but there were people here.
Let's reach out to the Smithsonian and tell them we got a podcast. We're curious. Could you show us a few of those floors? See what they say.
Just hey,
we can show you, but we'll have to kill you.
If we suddenly are no longer have the show, you guys need to look into it.
It's just gone, deleted from history.
But yeah, that's in one way or the other. And one thing on this show that we like to do is we just want to seed, like give you the tools to work with and come to your own conclusion on this. But one way or the other, when we talked about it last week, the things about the Smithsonian are their creation, sus, their existence, weird, the things that they're involved in, controversial, and the way that they cover stuff up, Sketchville. One way or the other, the Smithsonian is not, and I can tell you what it is not. The Smithsonian is not a museum.
I'm fully convinced at this point that it is the government's catch-all. That if we don't want the public to know about it, or we want the narrative redirected, we filter it into there, and it just goes away.
It's wearing a museum skin.
I was going to say,
but underneath, there's a lot going on.
And
so much going on. Like in 2 episodes, we barely touched a few of the things that like we weren't even sure exactly which direction we were going, just because there's
like
so many different directions to go.
Every path you start down leads to like 5 more.
Right.
Yeah.
That are adjacent to it.
Yeah.
Split off of it.
Well,
And
like,
you could just keep going.
when you think of like the CIA, you're like, oh, there's definitely some sketchy things there. Or you think of even like the USAID episode we did, you're like, oh, I could see that. But if you start throwing out that the Smithsonian is the ones that are doing it, people are like, really? But we just did 2 episodes where
we like museums.
Yeah,
We trust museums.
And museums aren't scary. You know, they're not the government.
Yeah.
But the Smithsonian is.
Museum skin.
All right, with that, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all of those things, connect to us, join the Discord, do all of that. We love you. Okay, bye.
In the ancient days of giants, when the earth was wild and free, a creature roamed the valleys, cloaked in mystery. Is he born of angels' blood and man, a Nephilim so tall, or a shadow of the fallen, yet heeding the Maker's call? He's a biblically accurate Bigfoot, with a lineage from the skies. Not a myth or legend, but a truth that never dies. Is he a remnant of the Nephilim, a titan standing tall? Or does he have the word of God upon him, the last to hear the call?